Good evening, party people. It's time to prep for the week, and I decided to share this one. The obvious story that's dragging futures down right now is that Korean markets got halted, 8% drop, and they're just getting crushed down to the 100 daily moving average here, well below its EMA convergence. Could be entering some territory where it might find a bounce early on in the week, but this is very weak. You know, we could come down a lot more than this, quite honestly. Will that actually crash U.S. markets? I don't know. I don't believe so, but it's hard to imagine that we would just flat out ignore it. There's also some big data coming out this week. Of course, we have some inflation, CPI, PPI, retail sales, core retail sales, initial jobless claims. Honestly, I think all of this is going to be secondary to earnings that are coming up. Remember, the market at the end of the day is just a measurement of future earnings. And with the banks reporting early in the week and Netflix kicking off tech earnings on Thursday, it's a big week. You know, just in general, the geopolitics are also just going to be noise. You know, I mean, just even looking at SPY, these headlines are just so pointless, right? You get a small sell-off, and then you rally back up on fake peace news. And here, I mean, even the SPY is better seen on the daily chart here, but it's breaking out of a wedge. What's interesting here is the fact that the Qs in tech are broadly not confirming. Qs still also in a wedge, but actually in the overnight, actually testing the bottom of the wedge. If we see that give out, you know, with all these leverage products and all this leverage in the system, even if the fundamentals are strong, even if earnings come around strong, that can cause some mechanical selling across the market. It's something to be aware of. It's a risk that's out there, but it's not anything I'm going to panic about until it actually happens, right? I mean, there's plenty of pockets of weakness where you could create a long short portfolio so that you can be weathered if there is some sort of plunge. You know, I have that right now. So even though things right now in the overnight look pretty ugly, I think it's going to be just fine. Bitcoin's really interesting to me here. We're getting some strong momentum confluence on the 1 day and 2 day. The weekly can improve. I actually think Bitcoin's going to be really appealing. I would start taking a position over 64,000 with 67,000 as my confirmation that we could start to get a real move and maybe start to look for a visit back to 100K ultimately. That might turn into just another plunge later, but I do think a meaningful bounce could come, especially when you're coming off such a substantial trend line like this. You know, the way that it had this failed breakdown, I'm actually surprised it's even taken this long for the turn. I think it's just because it's so dead. There's just not a lot of interest, not a lot of trading volume coming in through there. So that's just a symptom of that poor liquidity. But more broadly, I think gold even starts to look interesting here, coming to like a 618 retracement. It's got a really tightly defined wedge. You've got this shorter term trend line that I think I'll use as a starter and then see if we can get a continuation through it. But I'm keeping an eye here because I really like the way that's behaving in the short term. I think there's some good justifications for trying a long position here, especially, you know, we could see another environment where that becomes the safety net, especially since bonds have been such down in the dumps. You know, TLT. I honestly like TLT longs here just because it is so dead. It's like the no name, do not touch. That level of fear and sentiment just has it feeling very appealing to me because it's been so sustained for so long, and with the market pricing in all these rate hikes, given the new regime that we have in the Fed, I think rate cuts are likely coming. Any excuse to give those cuts will get them, and that becomes a massive mispricing here if that possibility comes where the risk reward is just kind of too juicy for me not to take attempts there. Some other key names I'm going to be watching this week. I think Lemonade looks kind of interesting here. You know, insurance companies in general have been doing really well, and this one gives me the nice duality of being an AI and an insurance play. It's got this great up breakout, and now we have a back test of the breakout that's holding so far. So we'll see what it brings us this week. I think even that overnight, it's still holding it here. So what I like about this so much is it just looks so good on the weekly. I think this is a really appealing setup here. A really nice W where I'd like to see us start to make a maybe attempt back at 100. Another name that's a bit of a wild card but looks interesting is all the hype around Tesla this week. I see the momentum starting to turn here nicely. We do this kind of breakout. Sorry, this chart's such a mess. But we kind of failed my downside targets that I was looking for. And then we did this nice recovery and then holding this 390 level. They just don't want to sell it. And then we're also breaking down factories and preparing to build all the Optimus robots. I think some interesting news about how that is going, being ahead of product, ahead of the timeline or something like that, could get a lot of excitement out of the stock just because cult names like that can just move like that. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one this week. Alternatively, SpaceX actually looks like a pretty good short. Keep in mind, this didn't IPO at 150, it IPO'd at 130. I think you could get a quick move down to 130. It also becomes an easier short in August when shares start unlocking, but it is something that's kind of on my radar. Because that's just a classic move for these IPOs. IPO at a ridiculous price and then sell off. On the other end of that, we have a company that IPO'd at a ridiculous price and then sold off, but now is getting this nice breakout that looks appealing to me. It looks like you've set it. It looks like you've started to maybe set a base here. So this looks like a solid tip on this higher low. And I'm really looking to see if we can get a nice continuation out of this name this week. Another name that's kind of an atypical breakout is Shop. Shop back testing, pulling back to its bullish EMA, still in a breakout range, with still good confluence on higher time frames as well. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to report on YouTube. But we've got more stuff in the community. Check out the Ember app on desktop, coming on mobile very, very, very soon. Would actually already be out on mobile. We're just waiting on approval on Apple. And plenty more exciting things that I'll talk about in the future. All right. God bless. See you guys in the morning.